All right, yoga peeps, today we are going to be doing Virabhadrasana 1, aka Warrior 1. And this pose is an awesome pose. It's a balance pose. It can be kind of tricky to figure out that balancing posture. And also it's really good for opening the hips, strengthening the legs, and yeah, well, let's get to it. I'll meet you on the mat. Okay, so Warrior 1. One of my mentors, Adrienne, Yoga with Adrienne. If you haven't checked her out, you should. She doesn't know she's a mentor of mine, but she is. She's taught me a lot of my foundation. Yeah, so she calls it the Forgotten Warrior because it doesn't get taught as often in most classes because it can be kind of complicated and kind of tricky as an instructor to cue. And also there's kind of a back and forth in the biomechanics world of whether it is that great for the hips. I believe that everybody is the governor or governess of their own bodies, and they should be able to decide for themselves whether it's something that feels nice or something that feels not so nice. So I will be giving modifications, not notifications. I will be giving modifications for this pose after demonstrating the classical pose. So we are going to start at the top of our mats, and we're gonna find Tadasana. This time we're gonna do feet together, balls of the feet together, heels slightly apart. Arms down by your side, tiny micro bend in the knees, scooping that tailbone up. Shoulders loop up, back and down, palms facing forward or to the side, whatever feels better on your shoulders. Reaching up through the crown of the head. At the same time, pressing down into your mat, grounding down, finding that foundation. This is your center point. Good. And then we're just gonna inhale, take the arms up. You can gaze up if it feels good on the neck. And then exhale, forward fold, coming all the way down. Inhale to your halfway lift, so place those hands on the shins. Reach out through the crown of the head, nice flat back, shoulders coming down the spine. And then exhale, place the hands or fingertips down on your mat. We're gonna step back with the right leg. And then at first you're on the ball of your foot here, but then we're gonna drop the heel over to the left. So here you can adjust to where it feels right to you. For me, my right toes, pointing up towards the top right corner of my mat feels best to me and most stable. Some people like to turn their toes all the way out to the long edge of their mat. But me, we're gonna go for this one, so I recommend trying this one with me today. Also, you can play with the stance here, whatever feels more stable again. So a few steps forward, few steps back. And then again, we want the two heels in line here. So back heel in line with the front heel. All right, here we go. Fingertips pressing down. Inhale, lift the heart space. And then we're really pushing through this front foot here to take us all the way up. Inhale, you can even bring the hands to the hips to come up. So hands on the hips at first, you're gonna feel maybe a little off balance. Find your center. If you're feeling really off balance, maybe walking the foot out to the side a little bit. So front foot, heel toe it just a little bit wider, and that creates a lot more space for us to turn the hips forward, squaring them to the front of our mat. So again, placing the hands on the hips can kind of help you figure out the orientation of your hips here. So squaring them forward. And then there's a slight bend in the front knee. It doesn't have to be super deep like in Warrior 2. So even just a little bit of a bend is fine. Because for me, what I find focusing on here is we're lengthening this right IT band here, or sorry, hip flexor, not IT band. Good. All right, so hips are square, heart is open, tailbone slightly tucked, belly button naturally kind of comes up and in, and then softening the ribs on top, so we're not sticking out our heart. So gently bringing those ribs back in, and then option always to keep the hands on the hips if that makes you feel more stable. You can bring them to Anjali Mudra at heart center, or you can inhale, take them up all the way up over the head. Again, yogi choice here for the arms. You can keep those hands pressing together, but that can feel not great on a lot of people's shoulders. I prefer to keep them wide at shoulder width, but make sure to keep those fingertips engaged going upwards and shoulders are coming down so the shoulders aren't up here by the ears. Or as one of my instructors likes to say, we're not wearing them as earrings. All right, so engagement through the fingers. And then always remember we start from the ground up in any pose. So you're really grounding down through the feet. Ooh, losing my balance. Here we go. All right, hips squaring forward. Fingers up, shoulders down, ribs in. There we go. Woo! So this can be really challenging to stay in this pose. I'm already having challenging balance here. So also, a lot of people's heels don't like to touch down because they haven't gotten that length in the leg yet. So they can be up, kind of creating a lot more imbalance here when the heel doesn't want to touch the ground. So to help with that, we're just gonna come into crescent pose. So in crescent pose, we're just on the ball of our back foot. Knee can be bent, hips are squared, and then ribs are in, arms are up, front, or on the hips. And this is essentially the same pose. We're working almost all the same muscles. We're stretching that right hip flexor. Everything is working the same, except the heel isn't down. And this can be really beneficial when we're first starting out and we're still working on opening up those hips. We're still lengthening and strengthening our leg muscles. So whenever somebody gives you warrior one, feel free to make it crescent pose. And I will be showing you crescent pose in this series. I believe it'll be before this one. So find the link to that. It's gonna be somewhere in this little square box you see me in. Whew. All right, now we're gonna come out of it. So bring the hands back down to the mat, framing the foot, step that leg back, come into downward dog for a moment, maybe just pedal out the feet here. So sometimes we come into this pose from downward dog, so I'll go from here. Your right leg up, and then exhale, bend the knee, draw it underneath the body, shifting the weight forward into a plank. Step that right foot up in between the hands. And then you might want to adjust the foot here, so bring it in a little bit closer. Drop the heel down, heel in line with the front heel. Inhale, press through the fingertips, lift the heart, create lots of space there. Press down through that front foot to come all the way up. Hands on the hips at first. Feel free to heel toe that foot a little bit wider to make a little bit more room for the hips to square to the front of the mat. Planting through the feet, knees slightly bent, tailbone tucking under, ribs soft and in. Inhale, sweep those arms up, energy through the fingers, reaching up as high as you can, but keeping those shoulders down away from the ears. Good, and remember always option to come up onto the ball of the foot. Pressing into the pinky toe if you're on the ball of the foot can really help balance you here. Also keeping that back knee as bent as you like. Good, and then inhale, whoo, step forward. Come back to your mountain pose. Take a moment, let it set in, feel the difference in your hips maybe. Maybe they feel a little fiery, a little looser. And ground down. All right, guys, so that was Warrior 1. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you loved it, if you hated it, if you have any more questions, I'd be happy to answer any of them. Thanks so much for continuing to watch these videos. I hope you're getting as much out of them as I am. And if it's your first time, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want more, and all that good stuff. Thanks again. Namaste.